Right. So first topic we have discussed about is summer air pollution. Where was the news? Because generally in Delhi, if you look, what kind of pollution we have? In which season? Winter season. Okay. Temperature inversion we have studied. So in winters, pollution is normal. But in this year, what we are witnessing? Pollution in which season? Which month? Summer month. Okay, that is going on. So multiple Indian cities, almost all cities we can say in northern part of India, they are affected by it. Okay, we can say cities in the Rajasthan part, then further you have UP, Delhi. And because of this, in Delhi, stage 1, a graded response action plan. In Delhi, when the pollution becomes very severe, you have GRAP, and that is graded response action plan. Okay, this action plan is basically imposed, and you have a committee, a special committee is set up in Delhi that is called as Commission on AQM. AQM means Air Quality Management as such. Okay, so CAQM, Commission on Air Quality Management, they start to intervene, and overall this reflects toward growing challenge of what? Pollution in the urban areas. Okay, urban air quality challenge that we have. So this is the reason why this particular topic was in news. And now if you look at the region, okay, why in the summer month we are experiencing the regional dust storm? So first reason is local winds we have studied, right? In local wind, which wind we have talked about? Loo winds, okay, in the summer month. So in the plains of India, starting from Pakistan, then you have the Arabian, Thar Desert. Okay, wind blows from Thar Desert and goes toward the easternmost part. So why such winds come into existence? Because of intense solar heating. Basically, what you have, strong hot winds blow in the northern part of India, because in summer we know that land versus water, which heats fast? Land or water? Land. So in the summer over land, what kind of temperature you will have? High temperature. Over water, what you will have? Low temperature. So high temperature means which kind of pressure? Low pressure. Low temperature means high pressure. So what should be the general direction of wind? From Arabian Sea, then passing over the Thar Desert, and then going all the way up to northern India, Delhi, UP and all that. So when this wind blows, they pick up a lot of sand particle, dust particle from the Thar Desert area, right? And also Arabian Peninsula you have, further you go in this side. So lot of sand particles, dust particles are being carried out by this wind, and long range transport we see. Okay, so from far we can distance, we can say lot of such solid particles are brought here. That is why we see a spike in which kind of pollutant? PM10. Okay, particulate matter 10. We have discussed that in atmospheric composition. Two type of particles you have, PM10, and what else do you have? PM2.5. Okay, this is based on the size, micrometer. So sand particles that are picked up by these low winds are of PM10. So they also pose a challenge to the respiratory system, right? Lung related disorders and all that you will see. Similarly, the other reason given is the local dust storm, that is generation of Andhi, right? Andhi means thunderstorm. Basically in the Bengaluru you would have experienced thunderstorm. In northern India, because the moisture content is less, what do you experienced? Dust storm. So convective heating dust storm is same mechanism. We have covered this in weather phenomena, thunder storms. So three stages we have discussed. You have updraft stage, then you have the cumulonimbus stage, and then what do we have? We have the downdraft stage where the thunderstorm disappears. So again, that's why I'm saying that if you do not revise, you will not be able to connect with the current affairs, right? So especially in climatology, geomorphology, revision is required. So thunderstorm, exact same mechanism we have, and also whenever you have thunderstorm like situation, imagine that this entire area is basically made up of loose, dry sand, sediment, soil, and during the strong thunderstorm you have the wind moving in the upward direction. What will this wind do? Because you have loose sand, moisture is less, topsoil is uplifted, and as the wind circulates, rotates, what happens? You have high speed movement of dust that you see, and dust moves from one region to other region. That means what will happen to pollution level? It will also deteriorate such. So first is the low wind, second what do we have? Local convective storm, that is called as Andhi, that creates urban dust episodes as such. And most interestingly, when you talk about dust storm, it is also experienced in cities that are far away from which areas? Northern India, such as Mumbai and the Hyderabad, right? Why it is so? Because strong convective heating is taking place. In Bangalore, if this thing will happen, dust storm will not be seen, because What is the region? From Arabian Sea, sufficient amount of moisture sometimes is brought, and then you have the rainfall as such, right? So that also is the region. Then right, so on the then third is ground level ozone. This is very severe pollutant. Yeah, we know that ozone is found largely in a stratosphere, right? But about 5% of atmospheric ozone also is found in which region? The lowermost layer of atmosphere, which is called as troposphere, right? So this acts as a secondary pollutant, and when vehicles are plying on the roads, nitrogen oxides are emitted as such, right? From industrial sources, you have emission of volatile organic compound. For example, paint industry, adhesive industry, right? Industrial chemical industry. And in the summer, what else is present? Strong sunlight is present. So in the presence of strong sunlight, these NOx and VOC react together. When they react together, what do they produce? Ozone. Okay, that's why we are calling it as which kind of pollutant? Secondary pollutant. It is not directly produced in the atmosphere by some sources. It is created by the reaction between different pollutant as such. So strong sunlight, VOC, NOx produces ozone. And ozone in the lower atmosphere, that means the tropospheric region, is referred as what? Pollutant. Okay, it is referred as bad ozone. Why? Because when you inhale air rich in ozone, it creates respiratory infection. Okay, you have lung related disorders and all that. And heat wave acting as a catalyst as well. Photochemical reaction. The reaction that forms the ozone is what you call as photochemical reaction. Photochemical is smog also many times forms in the this summer region. So especially during the daytime when sun is available in the sky, sun is present in the sky, what happens? This reaction becomes very strong as such. So that also further worsens the pollution problem. Then other is this we also have discussed in albedo chapter. In urban areas, what effect do you make in this experience? Called as urban heat island effect as such, right? Because we have talked about in urban areas, what kind of surfaces we have? Surface which have low albedo value. Okay, low albedo means very less reflective surface. Most of the light, the incident solar radiation that falls on the surface, what happens to it? They basically are getting absorbed as such. So you have concrete, right? Green cover has been lost because the lakes that you have, forest areas that you have, they're continuously being converted and transformed into which kind of area? Settlements, okay, that you are constructing multi-storied buildings and all that. And that's why the general trend is being seen where due to the loss of green cover, due to the loss of wetland, and due to the increase in the concrete expansion in the concrete based settlement, urban areas now retain more heat compared to the surrounding rural areas such, right? So for example, if suppose we take Delhi, in the summer you have Delhi and then you have the surrounding region that can be rural areas, rural region. So compared to rural areas, in Delhi temperature is 4 to 5 degrees Celsius higher. Okay, what is the reason behind this? Urban heat island effect as such. This will you see in every cities. Okay, almost all the major metropolitan cities of India, they experience 4 to 5 degrees Celsius higher temperature than surrounding rural areas, and that is because of the difference in what value? Difference in albedo value as such, right? So that's why you have higher urban temperature, faster smog formation. Why we are talking about this temperature? Because we have seen formation of ozone is determined by what factor? How much heat is present in the atmosphere. So higher the heating in the urban areas, more ozone will form, and worse will be the pollution. Then coming to other factor that you have is construction dust and anthropogenic emission. So construction activity is not very strictly regulated, okay, in almost all the cities of India, because you need to have, when you are having construction, you need to properly cover it, okay, the construction areas. You have to continuously sprinkle water so that all this dust that is generated does not go and wander around in the atmosphere. So construction activities are on boom because we know that majority of people from the rural areas are now migrating to urban settlement in search of jobs. So housing demand is very, very high. Infrastructure similarly development is going on at rapid progress in almost all the cities of India as such. So demolition activity is going on, poor dust suppression, coarse particulate matter. Here again, same thing we have studied before. Which particulate matter is largely generated due to the construction activities? It is particulate matter 10 as such, causing a lot of allergies and all that. Vehicular emission, why it is higher again? Because of this. More construction, because more demand. More demand means more people are coming, and these people who come to urban areas, what do they need? They need vehicles to move from here to there. So there is a increase in the number of vehicles being purchased, and that we are seeing rising in almost all the cities. So vehicular emission is also high. Industrial emission, industrial activity is picking up because India is shifting from agriculture economy to industrial economy, services based economy and all that. Plus many times the burning of waste in the urban areas also contribute to deterioration in air quality as such, right? So that we can relate with the anthropogenic. Anthropogenic means anthropo plus genic. Anthropo means human, genic means genesis, formation, this origin. So human origin, that we can say that you have. So interestingly now, if you compare winter pollution in Delhi versus summer pollution in Delhi, what is the difference? Sources are very different. Winter pollution is caused by which geographical phenomena? The answer would be temperature inversion, right? Summer pollution is caused by which phenomena? Two things: low winds, then what do you have? Local dust storm as such. Winter pollution, largely what do you have? In winter pollution, particulate matter 2.5 is very high in concentration. In summer pollution, we have discussed which particulate matter is highest? PM 10 as such, right? Third is in winter pollution, the photochemical smog and ozone does not form. In summer pollution, what do you have? High concentration of ozone as such. Winter pollution, anthropogenic source, which is the largest anthropogenic source. If you look at Delhi, it is the waste burning, stubble burning, you can say. Stubble burning that happens in the field of Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh. Okay, the people, the farmers are burning the residue of crops, and then those smoke migrate toward Delhi. In the summer pollution, where the waste is being burned, it is in the urban areas. So this is how we can differentiate between summer pollution, winter pollution. Question can easily be asked in mains examination. Okay, I describe and discuss the differences and characteristics of summer and winter pollution in urban areas of Delhi as such, right? So that is what we have to talk about. So, right, construction dust and anthropogenic emissions. What we can do if you way forward, right? Question can also be asked, what you can do to tackle these issues. Way forward. So that is where you have to link it to the current affairs. Like recently, you would have heard about government has launched a new type of fuel. What is it called as? E85, right? Ethanol 85. That means rather than burning petrol, you are burning a mixture of petrol is only 15%. 85% is now what? Ethanol as such. So when you are burning such kind of fuel, the emission is very less. Particulate matter being emitted, NOx, nitrogen oxide that we have seen being emitted, sulfur dioxide that is emitted, that becomes very, very less as such. So to some extent that would also help in what? Reducing the pollution as such. So the problem is that its adoption is not very wide because it cannot be used in the current vehicle that you are operating. You are required to have a new vehicle with different kind of engine, that is called as FFV, flexi fuel vehicle as such. So these all adoption we have to increase if we want to tackle this pollution crisis. Second news is simple, again not very important, but Admiral Krishna Swaminathan was appointed recently as 27th Chief of the Naval Staff, right? The way forward came here. So about that, dedicated summer action plan, leveraging early warning system, active construction monitoring we have to do, right? And the targeting of ozone precursor, how ozone is produced, that is where you can write E85. Okay, where is ozone coming from, how ozone is being produced? Secondary pollutant. So nitrogen oxide released from vehicular emission, okay, that will create ozone. So if you are able to reduce the emission from vehicle, what would you reduce? Amount of ozone being produced. So that's it. Now coming to this wide news. So Admiral Krishna Swaminathan appointed as 27th Chief of the Naval Staff. Chief of Naval Staff means simple. We have three wings in the military: Indian Army, Indian Air Force, and Indian Navy. So head of Navy is what we call as CNS. Okay, before that you have Admiral Dinesh Kumar Tripathi, senior most uniformed officers of the Indian Navy, okay, heads naval leadership and operation as such. Now, Chief of the Naval Staff, what is the roles and responsibility? That is what we have to focus here. So, as we know, he is the senior most, that means professional head of Indian Navy, right? Holds the rank of Admiral. Acha, rank, sometime they are asking this question. So, make sure that for Army, go through the ranks, right? Both for Army, for Air Force and for Navy, because these days such kind of factual questions UPSC is asking, right? So you can go through them. So holds the rank of Admiral. Yes, senior most naval officer in India, responsible for command, control, administration and preparedness of entire Indian naval architecture. Acha, also this is very important because if you compare all the three wings, Army, Air Force and Navy, currently the rapid expansion of which wing we are witnessing? Navy. Okay, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of resources, in terms of the equipment, weapons and all that is being made available to them. And the reason behind this is simple. Earlier, India was a dominant power in the Indian Ocean region as such. Now what we are seeing that China has invested heavily in development of submarines, for example, development of ships and all that. And now China is also trying to acquire and have control over bases in different part of Indian Ocean. Like Sri Lanka, they have created a base. Myanmar, they have created the base. Bangladesh, they are in talk about. Apart from that, also if you go on the African side, Djibouti is a country. Okay, there they have recently developed a base as such. So to some extent, we can say that China is trying to increase its assertiveness and dominance in the Indian Ocean region. So that's why Indian Navy also cannot be left behind. They have to develop their capabilities in similar way so that if it is required, they can, what we can say, they can challenge and have a win over Chinese Navy as such. So massive expansion we are seeing here, and a lot of stealth frigate, for example, right, Scorpion submarines and all, they are trying to build. And also one interesting this trend we are witnessing. Earlier, if you look at the Indian Navy, most of its equipment, weapons, vessels were coming from where? Outside of India, mostly of Russian origin, Soviet origin as such. Now we have focused on what? Developing it within India itself. Okay, so domestic content we talk about, its percentage has gone up. The indigenization we talk about, okay, it is being witnessed massively in the Indian Navy sector. Now functions and significance of CNS, again if you look, functions under, we know that military is under which ministry? Ministry of Defense, right? Because it tackles which kind of threat? You have two type of threat, internal security threat and external security threat. Internal security threat is tackled by Ministry of Home Affairs. Within that you have Central Armed Police Forces. External security threat is tackled by Ministry of Defense, where you have a three wings of military as army as such. So Army, Air Force and Navy. Advises government on maritime security. Also one thing you should remember, the Indian Navy is referred as which kind of Navy? Blue water Navy. And you compare this with Pakistan. Right? So Pakistan's Navy can be characterized as which kind of Navy? Brown water Navy. Okay, so blue water Navy versus brown water Navy. So maritime security, force modernization, strategy building, all of these is largely relevant for which kind of Navy? Blue water. Blue water means if you go in the coastal areas, near the coast, what kind of water you find? Brownish. Okay, sediment water have, sedimented water you have. If you go further deeper in the ocean, what kind of water would you find? Blue water, color water. So by thinking like this, you can imagine why we are calling Pakistan's Navy as brown water Navy, because it is largely capable to control which areas? Coastal area. It does not have enough vessels, we can say, or such kind of capability that it can go far beyond in the ocean. Okay. On the other hand, India has created what? Such kind of naval infrastructure, submarines. Okay, we have such aircraft carriers, for example, we have that we can go far beyond our coastal areas and provide security cover control. So like for example, Gulf of Aden was in news recently, right? A lot of piracy activities are going on. So Indian Navy was able to help a lot of ships there. Why? Because of our blue water or blue Navy capabilities as such. So that is where it comes in pictures. Member of Chiefs of Staff Committee and overall support the joint military planning as such. Then next topic we have CBAM, that is Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. This was in news. So Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBAM. This mechanism was instituted by European Union. So it has implications for India also. That's why we have to study in detail. So let us first understand what is CBAM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. So European Union Border Carbon Pricing Tool. Okay, if you try to understand simply, what is the purpose behind bringing this CBAM? Now we know that European Union, they want to focus more on which kind of energy? Green energy. Okay, or we can say which kind of resources, renewable resources, right? Or what kind of development they want? Sustainable. So this is the new focus. European Union want to use as much green energy as possible, dependent upon the renewable sources, and focus more on sustainable development. That they want to reduce the impact of global warming, climate change, and all that. So problem is that suppose that they have created a strict restrictions on the industries operating within European Union. That means you can emit only this much amount of greenhouse gas. If you are emitting more than this, you will be penalized. So what would they do? Rather than burning coal, they would switch to green energy such as wind energy, solar energy and all that. Now in beginning, if you compare, the cost of these sources are very high. So European industries are operating at what? Higher cost. If they produce steel, for example, right? For steel production, you need to burn what? Coal, right? But if you are switching to, let us suppose, nuclear power, in that case, what will happen? Price will increase. So the steel that is being manufactured in European Union, it would be costlier. So what people are doing there, or what companies are doing there? They're looking at the cheaper sources in different part of the world. They're importing it from India, importing it from China, Brazil and all that. Right? Why? Because in these countries, fossil fuel are being used. And that's why the cost of production is less as such. So it would defeat the entire process of what? Shifting to green energy, because they're importing it from anywhere, from other places as such. And because European industries themselves will be at disadvantage because their cost of production is higher. So gradually what will happen? They will lose competitiveness. Asian products would flood their market. That's why European countries have decided to bring in this carbon pricing tool as such, that if you are importing anything from outside of European Union, right, on which kind of product it applies? Non-European Union products. Okay, so basically if you are importing anything which is coming from the fossil fuel sector, coming from the pollutant sector, and it is non-European Union nature, you have to pay what? Additional tax as such, right? So that is what we call as the CBAM. Now if you look at the objective, what is the objective of CBAM? So it is understandable, to prevent the leakage of carbon. Okay, think about this. A company was operating in Germany. Before, it was producing steel at, let us say, rupees 100 per kg, just for example. Why? Because it was using which kind of fuel? Fossil fuel. Now because of European Union policies, the same company now has to switch to which kind of energy? Green energy. Their cost of production has increased. So now the same company is producing steel at what price? 200 per kg. Will it affect the profit of company or not? It will definitely affect. That's why this company can simply, what they can do? They can shift their entire production to, let us suppose, which country? China. Because in China do not have such limitations. The company can still use fossil fuel and produce steel even at what prices? Low prices. Right? So that's why the European Union have tried to prevent such kind of leakage from the European Union market to other market as such. Right? Level playing field is being created. Okay? And also people who are migrating, companies who are migrating to green energy, they will be having a level playing field. Okay? Fair carbon pricing is the purpose here. Promote green production, support decarbonization, achieve fit for 55 target. This is a target European Union has given to itself. That means by 2030, right, European Union want to reduce the GHG emission by 55%. That's what we call as achieve fit for 55 target. GHG emission, carbon emission by 55% by year 2030 as such. So it will also be helpful in achieving such target as such. So that's why this additional extra carbon tax, simply we can say, is being levied here. Now question comes that how it is relevant to India, because if you look at the product, total $8.22 billion of product is exported from where? From India. Which market? European Union as such. So when now these export is being given, we can say when the European companies are importing it, in that case they have to pay extra tax, high tax, because carbon tax has been levied upon it. So what is the disadvantage Indian industries can face? Now the cost of their product would become higher. So earlier 100 kg they were selling steel in the European Union. Now what will happen? That overall amount would reduce and go down. That means they will lose their customer base. If they are losing their customer base, what will happen to them? they will also suffer losses, okay, or the profit margin can decline as such. So the sector which is most vulnerable is which sector? Where you have massive use of fossil fuel, such as what we have seen, iron and steel. Sectors which emit large volume of greenhouse gases, such as cement sector, aluminium smelting sector, fertilizer sector. Electricity in India, because you know that 70% of electricity that we produce in India is produced from which kind of power plant? The answer is thermal power plant. Okay, it is running on burning of fossil fuels such as carbon dioxide as such. Acha, electricity we are not exporting to European Union. So why we are mentioning electricity here? All of these companies, industries, what do they need to operate? So that is also calculated by European Union. If you are producing, let us suppose, cement, and for cement production you are utilizing electricity for running of machineries, and if this electricity is coming from fossil fuel, that means on this cement, if you are importing it to European Union, you have to pay what? Extra tax as such. Okay, that's why the source is also is being, okay, this what you can say, calculated here. So electricity should also come from green sources. CBAM certificates in European Union, emission trading system linked pricing. For example, if someone is trying to import from India, they have to pay extra tax, and someone is importing less, they have to pay less tax. So there is kind of incentive structure, and we did that actually in India also. Okay, for many sector, like for example, you can take fertilizer sector. Here every industry is given a target. Let us suppose that government has given a target that you can only emit 100 kilograms of carbon dioxide, right? So this is target given to industry A also, industry B also. Understood? Now suppose industry A has, we can say, emitted how many kg of carbon dioxide? 120. Did they exceed the quota or not? Yes. And suppose industry B only emitted how many kilograms of carbon dioxide? 80 kilograms. What is their quota? 100. That means how much carbon they can emit more? 20 kg. So they have balance of 20 kg. They have shortage of 20 kg. So what these company can do? The company A can buy this carbon credit from company A. So they will not have to pay penalty because they have paid the price to company B. And now it is 100 here, 100 here. This system is what we call as emission trading system as such. So this is also implemented in which area? European Union, right? So that's the coverage mechanism. Timeline wise, if you look briefly, so it is not very old system. 2023, it was the first time when the CBAM system was launched. 23 to 25 was considered as a transitional phase. Emissions reporting only was done earlier. Now the European Union have implemented a commissioner system, and the job of this commissioner is to implement what? That this CBAM system is instituted, monitoring and compliance has to be strictly carried forward. And from 1st January 2026, European Union has entered into the definitive phase. That means whatever what you can say, leeways were given to companies before, that is no longer operational. If you are importing anything from dirty industries, fossil fuel based industries, you have full financial obligations to pay the carbon tax, right? So that is the timeline. Now question is, what is the concerns and trade impact? So 3 countries, they have raised objections, that is India, Brazil and China, because they were importing lot of such kind of, exporting lot of such kind of material to European Union. So they feel that it is an example of which measure? Protectionism. Protectionism means when any country is promoting its own domestic industry compared to the other industries. Export competitiveness will be lost, because why? We were able to produce materials at cheaper prices, we are not fulfilling the emission norms, we are not focused upon use or non-use of fossil fuels and all. That also will lose. Higher compliance cost. You want to ensure that export from India to European Union does not decline. What we have to do? We have to bring in green energy and all that, right? Supply chain restructuring to be done. Pressure for green manufacturing will increase on the producers, and also it is going to be part of climate trade negotiations. Here one term you would have studied. Okay, in the UN climate change negotiation, this term always comes into picture, called as CBDR. CBDR means common but differentiated responsibilities. What India believes, that climate change, global warming is going to affect everyone. That means every country has a responsibility to ensure that we take measures to reduce the impact of global warming and all, right? But at the same time, India also says that which countries went on the phase of industrialization first or before? Western countries, European countries, America and all that. So they are the countries which are responsible for majority of GHG that you have in the atmosphere. Those should have higher degree of responsibility compared to developing countries. That's why what we are calling it as common but differentiated responsibilities. The burden of fighting climate change cannot be same for US and India, cannot be same for Germany and India, because Germany became industrialized in the early 18th century itself. India industrialization began post 1945, 1950s we can say. That's why we have differentiated responsibility, and that's why this is what India always promotes. Now what is the way forward? Simple decarbonization principle you have to follow. You have to migrate and switch toward the green energy. Negotiation with European Union for what reduction? Tax. Okay, the carbon tax they are charging for every countries, they can vary. Okay, so that we can try to reduce at least for short period of time. Transfer of clean technology, because European countries also have better technology, and if they want Indians also to produce cleaner, right, you can say materials, what they should do? Transfer those technology know-how to India. Okay, so we not have to spend a lot of money on research and development and all that. And same thing, transfer of clean technology as such. So these should be the basis of further negotiations between India and European Union. Right. The next comes the question, this topic related to internal security. So we have Assam Meghalaya border dispute. This is the region, Tapat Lapangap sector, that is at the border of two states of northeast India, Assam and this. First, if you look here, the map itself, here, northeastern part of India. Many times we have drawn in the geography this state near the West Bangladesh border to the south. Which state it is? Meghalaya, right? So this is the part of Meghalaya, this region, and upper state is which one? Assam. So this part, that is the border of Assam. So the dispute is around this area. Okay, to the west you have the Meghalaya, and to the east we have Assam. So this is the region we are calling as this Tapat Lapangap sector as such. So both states have faced border dispute, and recently it was news because local negotiation, community based negotiation was carried out, and the farming resumed in the disputed sector, because this is fertile area, right? That's why dispute is. If the area was of no use, then dispute would not arise. It is fertile land, and we know that in the eastern plain, basically it is part of Assam plain. So fertile Assam plain, and largely what is cultivated here? Rice cultivation. So now it has been decided that temporary cross community cultivation arrangement would be made, and this has been brokered by Assam and Meghalaya authorities. It is obvious valid for one agricultural season. Now this is a temporary solution, right? What we are talking about, there is a dispute related to this area, and the solution that we have found is not permanent solution. It is for the next upcoming, because we are in the this Kharif season. Already sowing of crop and everything will start. That's why this truce is valid for only one agricultural season. After the end of agricultural season, we have to find some new solutions. So people do not keep on fighting with each other. Why this temporary solution is being celebrated? Because you can understand in this area, people are strongly dependent upon agriculture for livelihood. Okay, they do not have any extra source of income. So they cannot sow crop. If they cannot sow crop because of this dispute, what will happen? They will have difficulty. So that's why it protects the livelihood and reduces tensions also in the neighboring areas. If you take a look at the background of the dispute, so background is, first of all, historically, if you look, after independence, which was the largest state in northeast? It was Assam. Assam actually used to contain the states of Nagaland, you have here, Nagaland, you have Arunachal Pradesh. Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, other state is Meghalaya, we are discussing about. Meghalaya, and then you have Mizoram. Right, so currently we have these four separate states. But after independence, Nagaland, Arunachal, Meghalaya and Mizoram, all of these are part of single state, and that was Assam. It was in 1972, right? 1972, Meghalaya was separated from Assam and was created as a separate state. And that's when the state's border was demarcated, delineated, and that is when this dispute particularly arose. So overall, if you look at this, both of the state, they share a long border, roughly 855 kilometers of border they have. And dispute is, as you have discussed, 1972 when the Meghalaya's border was being established, that is when dispute arose. And even till date, okay, imagine since 1972, almost how many years? Roughly 50 years we can say has passed. Still along the border, we have total 12 disputed sectors such. Okay. Out of these 12 disputed sectors, 6 are to some extent we have been able to come to some solution. 6 sectors are still such sector where states do not accept each other's points. Okay, that whose area is it? Different interpretation of boundary line is the reason behind it. Assam said it is my area based on the historical this data, historical we can say control. Meghalaya say that because it is our communities people who are living in this area, it should rightly be transferred to which state? Meghalaya as such, right? So Tapat Lapangap, the area, the dispute that we are talking about, still is one of the unresolved dispute along the same Meghalaya, this border. Now, if you look at the location, sometimes places in news-based questions they can ask that where this particular area is located. So, Tapat is part of West Karbi Anglong in the Assam as such, right? This area. This particular part of Assam, it is kind of plateau. What is this plateau called as? Karbi Anglong Plateau. And Lapangap is the region that is located in which hill? West Jayantia hills of Meghalaya as such, right? So we know that in the Meghalaya plateau, I told you that the entire state of Meghalaya can simply be divided into 3 hill regions. Garo in the eastern part, Khasi in the central part, and further you go to the east, which hill would you find? Jayantia hill. So Garo, Khasi, Jayantia, and further you go to the east, what you would have? Karbi Anglong. So Jayantia and Karbi Anglong shares border with each other. Karbi, why are we calling it Karbi? Because name of the tribal community living here is also Karbi. So Karbi community, their stakeholders were there. And in the Khasi Jayantia hills, which community live? Khasi also called as Panars, okay, as such. So Khasi Panar community. So the dispute is between 2 communities, Karbi community and Khasi Panar community. Customary land ownership claims, basically because Khasi is a tribe. During early time, tribals control was not exercised by some government dictate or some documents and all that. It was based on what? Previous cases of use itself. So forefathers are continuously using that land. On that basis, what they claim? That this land rightfully belongs to our community as such. But when the state's border were being delineated, what happened? In the map, we showed these areas belonging to which state? Belonging to Assam as such, right? So that's why Karbi Anglong community, Karbi Panar community, Khasi Panar community, they do not want to accept this particular decision. Now, recent breakthrough and significance, if you look, cross cultivation arrangement adopted. Achha, this is very interesting because what is the arrangement we have made? Suppose that Khasi group, okay, it is claiming Assam area and the Karbi groups are claiming whose areas? Meghalaya's area. So we are making sure that Khasi Panar farmers, they are from which state? Again think, Khasi Panar people are from Meghalaya. They have been given right to cultivate on the land which is claimed by which state? Assam. And similarly, at the same time, what we are doing? The Karbi farmers who are resident of which state? Assam. They have been given right to carry out farming on the land claimed by which state? Meghalaya. So that is a kind of cross cultivation arrangement, temporary solution we have adopted. And the most important point is, for this you do not have to involve this high level officials or we can say examples chief ministers and all that. The entire arrangement was made by diplomacy at which level? Local community. So Karbi community group, their leaders met. Okay, you have the Khasi community group, their leaders met. So this is very good example of how the community at a local level itself can support what? Peace and livelihood. Okay, so you not have to, for every small dispute, not have to go all the way up to higher chain. Okay, chief ministers and governor and all that kind of thing. So that is something which we should also inculcate at different places. Key challenges. What are the key challenges after this resolution? As I told you in the beginning, which kind of arrangement it is? Is it only temporary arrangement lasting for how many seasons? 1 agricultural season. So once the Kharif season ends, again dispute will become active. You have to find some solution. So risk of what you can say renewed tension exists here. Second thing is that solving and resolving this dispute is not easy because this dispute is based on complex tribal land right? Suppose that 2 people are fighting over land. How would government settle this dispute? They will ask the original land documents. Whoever will have that original land document, that land would be rightfully belonging to him. Here I told you the problem is tribal community do not have any document in support of the proof of this land. They are only basing their right on what we can say, customs. That means old traditions of forefathers and all that. So that's why resolving such dispute becomes difficult, because the other party would not easily accept your control over this area, right? Boundary demarcation also is difficult because it is not a simple plain terrain, okay, that you take a thread and they divide the line. What do you have? Hill areas are there. In hill areas, without proper satellite surveying and detailed surveying, you cannot say that where boundary end and where boundary of other state this begins as such. So satellite surveying is very important, and overall escalation risk remain, especially northeastern India, where tribal identity is very strong. People are joining hands, okay, just to support the tribal rights, okay, their own community rights. What is the way forward? So first of all, I told you total how many disputes you have along the Assam Meghalaya border? 12 dispute. Out of the 12 disputes, 6 are to some extent resolved. So government should focus on resolving these disputed sectors as soon as possible, right? What we can do? We can create a joint boundary demarcation commission where we should have members from both group, Khasi group as well as Karbi group as such, right? Institutionalized community dialogue as such. So currently it is more or informal kind of dialogue, discussion, diplomacy that is going on. You have to institutionalize it, and government should back this. Integrate customary land record. This is seen in many parts of India, and I think few months back you have similar kind of dispute between Nagaland and Arunachal Pradesh. Why? Again, tribal claim that they have been historically cultivating this land, and this land has been transferred to Arunachal Pradesh. Okay, this is Naga's land as such. So we cannot just say it is based on custom. If custom is being followed, it is better that government records this in its database, that this land would belong to these people, this community, because they have been cultivating it for hundreds and hundreds of years. Once you make that record in government document, it becomes what? Very solid document. This becomes a legal document on which the claims and rights can be made as such. Plus, the biggest, we can say, problem in achieving a solution here is lack of political will. Why political will is lacking? Why do you think political will is lacking? Because government do not want to create tensions, okay, create conflicts between two communities as such. Plus also vote bank politics comes into picture. If they appease one community, other community will become angry. And next time what they will do? They will give vote to some other party as such. That's why government also focuses upon taking goodwill, or basically getting the goodwill from both the community as such. Plus the trust in community is also lacking. That is general problem you see in the northeastern India. Right, so that's about this part. Then coming to the next one is a recent operation launched by Gujarat police called as Mule Hunt 1.0. The first version is being launched. So Operation Mule Hunt 1.0, Gujarat's crackdown on cyber fraud. So first we have to understand that what is Operation Mule. So Mule operation focuses upon identifying and then closing the mule accounts, right? So focus upon hunting of mule accounts. What is mule account? Mule, you know what is the use of mule? It is an animal. What do you, or where do you use mule as? As a beast of burden. So you put your own materials, burdens, bags on the mule, and mule carries up the slope along the mountain. Same thing is being done here in which sector? Financial and banking sector. Like for example, if you have a lot of black money, you have risk if you use it in your own account, transfer it through your own account, because government can easily trace it. You will get caught. So what you do? You use account of different individual. You use account of people who do not even exist as such. You make fake account as such, right? And then even if government is able to trace it, they will not be able to trace it back to you, right? Because you will not show any connection between your account and this person's account. So such account, bank account, which is used to receive or transfer black money, fraud money, illegal money, what we call such account as? Mule account, right? And in 2016, what is the biggest step or major step taken in 2016? Demonetization. So people who had a lot of black money, right? That cash is no longer usable, and they cannot deposit this cash. Suppose they have 10 crore, 5 crore. If they deposit this cash directly in their account, it will raise suspicion. Inquiry can be made. So what they used to do? They used to go in the village areas, pay certain commission to every individual and ask them that you take 50,000, you take 50,000, you take 50,000. You deposit in your account and then transfer me after cutting 10% tax. So same 10 crore now they are disputing in 1,000 people. Would it raise suspicion? No. Okay, because they are having very small kind of transaction as such. So such kind of account is what we can call as mule account, not being used for the benefit of the person who is the account holder, but it is for the benefit and use of some other individual as such. So operated either knowingly or unknowingly by a money value. And this is very surprising because in rural areas, people easily are able to make other people fool. Okay, they take their Aadhaar card, PAN card, open account in their name, and these people might not even be knowing. Okay, they will come like a fraudster, say that we are going to give you some policies, life insurance policy or some accident policy and all that. Take all the details, use that. They have connection in bank because they're paying money to these people in bank also. They get the account, and after that they're using it for their purpose, right? So that is why either knowingly or unknowingly helps in which kind of thing? Money laundering, okay, stolen funds that we have. Many times the big culprits that you have involved in large scale circulation of black money, they are using intermediary account and shell companies for such transaction. So bulk payout facilities that you have in the bank, that is basically taken advantage of here. Now under this operation, Mule Hunt 1, what are the key achievements? Again, not required to be remembered because it's just database, but to some extent we can understand that the success of this operation can be seen through the numbers. So total more than 500 FIRs were registered, over 600 arrests were made. So all these data are there. How many mule accounts were acted against? Total government of Gujarat were able to identify 913 mule accounts which were used for fraud purposes. Okay, this case is, and if you look at this value, this is the most significant value. If you have to add one data for your general studies answer, which data I should add? This much. Almost 2,300 crore of economic fraud were exposed, okay, by this particular operation as such. 75% decline in check withdrawals we are seeing, 30% reduction in the first layer mule accounts we have seen, and 66% fall in the fraudulent ATM withdrawal we have registered. All because of which operation? Operation Mule Hunt 1.0 as such. These are some of the successes and achievements to show. Now, technology and institutional framework that is being used for this operation. So now we know that we are living in the era of artificial intelligence. So government agencies, banking this institutions, financial institutions, all of them have begun to use this artificial intelligence for their purpose as well. And now what you have this Indian Digital Payment Intelligence Corporation, right? That is a full form of IDPIC. You will get this in this document. It is under which organization? Reserve Bank of India. So they are using artificial intelligence to create a risk scoring system. Under this scoring system, transactions will be classified into three categories, right? Low risk, medium risk and high risk. Everyone. Suppose you are depositing money in your account, 100,000, right? And it is seen that almost every month you are depositing 100,000. That means it is a clear pattern. What kind of risk it is? Low risk. Now every month you are depositing 100,000 in your account. Suddenly 1 month you are deposited 1 crore. Then whether this transaction will be flagged or not, it will be flagged. Okay, because it is very, very high value compared to your general movement of money. So 1 crore suddenly if you got, you must have some valid reason to show. So anyway, it would be flagged, right? And government can ask you, income tax department can ask you, show the proof from where you got the money. If you are able to show it, then it is good. If you are not able to show it, it means which kind of money it is? Black money, fraudulent money and all that. That's when actions can be taken, right? That's why the AI is basically analyzing the data, right? In the entire financial history will be analyzed. Based on that, if in your account some high level transactions is seen, it would be flagged as high risk, right? Or medium risk. Also, they have registered mulehunter.ai. It is for interbank alert. For example, we know that all of us, okay, we have account in 1, 2, 3 banks as such. So we have account in SBI, we have account in SDFC or Axis Bank and such. Now suddenly in the Axis Bank account, you have high level of transaction recorded. And similar transaction was recorded where? SBI. So these banks will also coordinate because today your PAN card, Aadhaar card is linked with all of your account. So based on PAN transaction, easily banks can communicate that whether any kind of this suspicious transaction is taking place or not. So how would bank communicate? For that, government has created a special registry called as mulehunter.ai as such, right? I4C, the organization involved here is Indian Cyber Crime Coordination Center. We'll discuss that internal security. NCRP, National Cyber Crime Reporting Portal. And for every cyber crime, this is the number government has given to every individual, every citizen. If you feel that you are being defrauded or you are being fraud committed against someone, what you can do? Dial 1930 and then can report this incident on helpline, right? These days you have increased in one of the case, that is one of the largest scam that is being run today. What is called as digital arrest scam, where people in the police uniform would call you, video call you, and will say that we are calling from police station, CBI or something like that, and we have found a parcel in your name, in your Aadhaar card is mentioned here, PAN card is mentioned here, and there you have drugs or some contrabands are there, right? And that's how they try to basically earn money from you. So that's where you can also report to 1930. Challenges and national security concern. So what is the challenge? We have 100 plus crore internet users and rising UPI transaction. The volume of transaction is so high that you cannot trace each and every transaction as such. So it is quite possible that still some sort of illegal fraud activities are going on. Complex multi-layered mule account chain. So criminals are also adapting and evolving with the way how police has evolved. So they are not using simple one account or two account and all that. They have used multi-layered mule account. So that also makes it difficult for tracing the money. Cross-border and interstate jurisdiction issue is there. Like digital arrest itself, we take, money was being transferred from the account of Indian person, right? Where he was transferring it to some Indian account. And within transferring to this Indian account, within few minutes, this money was transferred to company registered where? In Dubai. And again, it did not remain in that company's account for a long period of time. Within few hours, it was transferred to bank account based where? In Myanmar. Because Myanmar is currently the hot spot from where all this digital arrest scam is being run. So once the money has gone from India to Dubai, Dubai to Myanmar, it becomes very difficult because it has crossed the border. Indian government has very limited jurisdiction. Indian police has very limited jurisdiction to do anything in Myanmar as such. So once the money is lost, retrieving it becomes what? Quite challenging or difficult. Or once black money has left the country, again bringing it back becomes what? Quite difficult as such. So that is where the cross-border interstate jurisdiction issues come. Or like Swiss bank, right? Most of time, when you talk about black money, which bank comes into news? Swiss bank. Why Swiss bank comes into news? Because they follow a strict code of confidentiality. If you have account in Swiss bank, whatever transaction you are doing there, they will not share to the government of India no matter what. Okay, so once you have deposited money in Swiss bank, government cannot prove it that it is your money because government will not have any information. So that is also creating challenges here. Transnational criminal network is involved. Transnational means Dubai. Okay, you have Singapore, you have Bahamas. So a lot of people are involved there. So they are taking money outside of India very fast. Cyber security directly is linked to national security. Now see, this entire issue that we have discussed seems to be issue of what? Cyber security, because financial crime is being committed, computer system is being used here, but it is also directly threatening our security, right? Because the black money which is generated, finally it goes in the hands of people who want to commit harm against India. The same money is being used for funding Naxalism, same money is being used to funding terrorism, okay, organized crime and all that. So that's why if you are able to strictly control cyber security or cyber threat, the national threat, security threat would also vanish gradually. So way forward is how to ensure that mule account is not used by this black money launderers and all. What we have to do? Mandatory KYC audit, know your customer that you have. So every bank should be able to refine that whether the account is suspicious or it is a general simple non-suspicious account. Greater accountability of bank is required here, because finally all the information about the customer transactions is lying with who? With the bank. So unless and until banks themselves proactively start to investigate the transactions, government agencies will not have enough information to act upon. Expand on IDPIC, it is still at very nascent stage, and the Cyber Crime Center of Excellence Gujarat government has created. Now this is the model that only currently existing in two states, Gujarat and Maharashtra. But this has yielded result. Example we have seen in the case of Operation Mule Hunt itself. So can we say this model should be emulated nationwide or not? Definitely, because imagine such success being achieved in almost all the states. What will happen? We'll be able to have a greater degree of control, extent of control over such crimes. Cyber financial intelligence units in all states need to be created. Dedicated Cyber Crime Prevention Act is required. Currently, the entire cyber crime is dealt under Information Technology Act that is brought in which year? Right, so 18 years have passed. Do you think the cyber crime, the nature of cyber crime is same or had changed? It has changed, drastically changed, right? Imagine 2008 which kind of systems we have, today which kind of system we have. It is much more evolved system, okay? The way how crime is being committed, forgery is being committed is much more different than 2008. So many experts argued that this act is no longer sufficient. Okay, it has become kind of obsolete act. That's why what we need to bring a new Cybercrime Prevention Act, which deals with the modern day threat as such, right? That is what we have to do. And overall strengthen cyber resilience and security of what? Digital India as such. So these are some of the way forward we can write. Now looking at some of the questions from these topics, you can take a look. It is easy, you should be able to tell. What is the correct option? What is the correct option? A, B, C or D? Right, first, because here what else are they characterizing as? Yeah, this is already written. Low risk, medium risk and high risk, not only low and high, right? That's why attentiveness matter. Yeah, imagine that you have just read it 5 minutes ago, you're not able to remember. How to remember after 1 year? Okay, in writing prelims examination. Second is, with reference to summer air pollution in India, consider the following statement. Yeah, this should be easier. Which of these are correct statement? Two and three, right? Because ground level ozone we have discussed. Which kind of pollutant it is? Secondary pollutant, right? Because they are not directly emitted by vehicles. How do they form? When nitrogen oxide and volatile organic compound reacts in the presence of sunlight. That's when ozone is created. So this is incorrect. Second, third is correct. Then last we have is with reference to European Union CBM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. What are the correct statements? Option A, right? This does not currently apply to crude oil, natural gas industries. We have written steel industry, fertilizer industry, electricity and all that. So oil and natural gas is not covered under this sector. So, but it's not covered under this. CBM does not currently covers crude oil, natural gas. It is fossil fuel, but that system does not tax it. Okay, if they start taxing it, it will be too much problem for them, because European Union also is dependent upon oil and natural gas from other sources. Yes, that's why it would be like putting feet on the X. Okay, their entire development would come to halt. Right? I think that is. That's all.